What's up, guys? I'm the Coffee Bean Jim, and this is going to be for the WitchFire Campaign Diary number 3. Now, this game started out great. I did a quick recap of the previous sessions, went through everything with the players, got everybody set up. Our one player, Wes, was not available for this game. He had to run out as he is, well, actually, he's not having a baby, but his wife is having a baby, so congrats, Wes. Hope everything goes well. Hopefully you'll be able to kind of get an idea of what happened in the session from this video. So, let's get to it. We picked up with the players at the table with Father Damas as well as Alexia, where she just came in. Zach helped her sit down to the table, and she noticed that he was previously looking at her hands to see if she had any dirt or blisters or anything from digging up these graves in the previous session. And they were all clean, but what he did notice was that she was missing one of her earrings, a green emerald earring in one of her ears, which they had found. And this matched the other one. She did have the one in her ear that matched the one that they found. So, he kind of coughed and got the others' attention, made sure that they noticed as well. With that, they sat down. They chatted with Father Damas a few minutes, as well as Alexia. She stated that she was at the library most of the day doing some research about elves and stuff, and she wanted to meet with Latrix a little bit later in the night. And, just kind of go over some stuff that she found out about. So the others, let her go on her way. She went off to prepare some rooms for the night and get everything around. The three players, Zach, Latrix, and Roland, retired to Latrix's room for the night. Well, not for the night, but for a couple hours until they were hoping Alexia would come. And as Alexia and Latrix were conversing and talking, Roland and Zach were going to sneak into her room and see what they could find. They did hear Alexia further on in the night leave her room, walk by Latrix's door, and then disappear. So Latrix stepped out to see what she went or what was going on. She noticed that a room at the end of the hallway the doorway was open just a little bit. Going through there, she went out, realized this room had a balcony. She seen a few rope fibers that were still stuck to the strand, and assumed that apparently Alexia had basically snuck out of this place. She went down to a separate room, went over the balcony, and took off. So with that, they decided to at least take a look at Alexia's room, see if there was anything in there that they might be able to pin on her to actually, blame her for these grave robberies. They needed some sort of proof more than a scrap of fabric and an earring. They weren't able to get into the room as it was locked, so Roland and Zach headed downstairs outside, and they were going to plan to climb up the side of the cathedral up through Alexia's bedroom, but that proved not very well. They failed all their climb checks and just couldn't get a handhold on anything. They did come across one of the clergy people there that work at the cathedral, though. Zach was able to pickpocket him, grabbed his keys, and then they got back up, met with Latrix, and got into Alexia's room. In there, they noticed that the books that she had been reading before and stuff were talking about the Corvus Coven. It had notes about who all the jurors were, which they found out that everybody that was had their grave robbed, all the bodies that were missing, were all jurors on the trial for the Corvus Coven. They learned their names. They learned a little bit more about Magistrate Borlock and who he was, and he worked for the ex-king Vinter Relthorn. They're completely missing now, or they're gone anyway. They were taken over in the coup. Beyond that, they did find a pair of muddy boots that Alexia had worn. They were hers, obviously, covered in muck and gore. And they also found that one of the earrings was there that matched. They looked through her dresses and stuff. None of them had any rips or tears in the fabric. Everything looked nice and clean, so there was nothing there. So they kind of decided that, they needed to figure out what to do next. They took one more gander through her books, and this time they came across they came across one little geography book that had a bunch of areas marked down and stuff, and it had information about the Corvus Coven tomb, which was actually an Orgothian tomb during the ancient times that was out in the swamps. So they took note of that, and then they went through part of her diary that they found, and they noticed references to the WitchFire, and then they noticed that she was basically looking for whatever this WitchFire thing is, trying to find out who the executioner was for the Corvus Coven, and some different odds and ends, kind of notes of places she's went and what she's done. Ultimately, they decided that they needed to get out to this tomb, this Orgothian tomb, where the Corvus Coven was buried, see what they could find there. They figured that was really their best lead from where they were at. So they gathered up some horses, decided to go at night, traveled through the swamp. They did pretty good on their rolls, didn't encounter anything, were able to stay hidden, made themselves to the tomb, and decided to head on in. And this is where the campaign or the adventure, I suppose, kind of took a turn. I decided to go with the book on this one. In the book itself, it has the Orgothian tomb. I think it's like 15 rooms or so. It goes room by room, tells what's in each one of them, have a basic standard map. I am not the kind of game master that can run dungeon scenarios of that sort, because no matter when I do it and no matter what kind of work I put into it or whatever I do, when you plop down a map for the players and you allow them to start moving through the dungeon and stuff, it becomes a door to door to door to door game where they open up the door, check out the room, make perception checks, move on to the next door, open it up, make perception checks, move on to the next door, and it becomes this monotonous thing that's over and over and over, and that drives me absolutely crazy as a GM. However, I decided, what the hell, I'll go with the book. It is a cool little dungeon, and I thought, maybe I can. I gave the book the benefit of the doubt of being able to run this dungeon as an actual, map and moving around and stuff like that. It didn't work. Hopefully the players had fun still. They said they did. As a GM, it was still a fun session, but it ended up becoming that slog through a dungeon that I absolutely despise. So, from the GM side of things on this game, or with this session, I wasn't very happy with the way it ended up. The players did great. No, everything was there good, spot on. The role playing was excellent. The first half of the game went excellent. It was once we hit to that dungeon stop, or that dungeon moment, things started just kind of dragging and dragging and dragging. And, I blame that completely on myself. As I said, I was hoping to kind of give the book the benefit of the doubt and run it as is, but that is going to be a task for another time. But basically what they did in this dungeon, and this is why I don't like these kind of dungeons, is really they basically spent almost 2 hours of absolutely nothing besides slogging through a couple of rooms, finally to the end to find an empty cell with no bodies left and hints of necromancy. So all that work, and really it didn't need to be. It was just kind of a pointless adventure almost. But it is what it is. So, they got to this dungeon. They went door to door. They found a few odds and ends trinkets. I kicked off a couple little traps. Some people got injured. I wore them down a little bit. They came to a room finally towards the back of the dungeon where Bork was. Bork is a simple little swamp gobber who was trying to clean up this room for his chieftain, Chief Vomit. And the players kind of walked in on him. He freaked out a little bit. Basically wanted just to survive. He was paranoid these players were going to kill him, so he offered to do whatever they wanted for him, basically. He mentioned that he seen a woman in white, called her the witch girl, that she came through the day before. She came in with a couple skeletons, and she left with 4 gray women, that she had blown off the doors to this place, that she'd blown through the grate, that she spent a whole bunch of time in a room with a bunch of stinky boxes. So the players got him to show them where she went. He took them down the hall and made through this main door there. And actually, I got a map here. Let me bring up this map. Let's see. So you can see this map here, and here's where the door was. They came up through. This was the door, just had like a little bed in it, and they found a pistol and a couple of coins. Over here was a room that was filled with sort of obscene artwork and stuff of the Orgothian Empire. This was a simple, empty little room that had some water in it and a face that was kind of carved into the wall with marble. It's hard to see, but there is a little grate across here. So in the beginning, when Latrix came in, this is first area of this tunnel right here is covered in like a slickery, grimy water scum, basically. She slipped on that and slid down this little incline and impaled herself on one of these pipes, or these bars that had been blown open. Eventually they came through here, they fit through these bars, went over. This was another just a basically mostly empty room, nothing really interesting going on. There was some tables and odds and ends in there. They decided not to go down this little side chute because they had a whole bunch they thought it looked kind of maze-like, and they didn't want to get too deep into that right now. So they came up. This room here is where Bork was, and they met him. Talked to him. He mentioned this witch girl and the skeletons and the stinky boxes and the gray women. He sent them up through this door here, and they came through. Latrix snuck ahead a little bit, kind of peeking around this corner, and that's when she seen 3 giant skeletons in this room. They saw her, and they began to advance. So all the players got ready to kill these things, or, take them out, when behind them, from down through here and coming up around the corner, were 3 large rats, and then a 4th rat, which Bork was riding. He ordered the rats to charge and attack, so the rats were coming up this way, and the skeletons were coming down through this way. And ultimately what happened was this stagnant sort of battle where they bottlenecked everything, again, because I decided to go this route. And, it was just a dragged-on battle. The rooms themselves weren't interesting, and, ultimately it just didn't work to the way I wanted. As I said, the players had fun for the most part, and, I learned a valuable lesson to basically run the dungeons I know how to run and do them in my theater of their mind, balls to the wall sort of way. I have a distinct way of running dungeons, and that's what I'm good at. Running them in this sort of way, I'm not good at it. I can't seem to get any mojo going in this kind of scenario when I run a game in this style. So, valuable lesson learned, I won't be doing that again. I'll be, from here on out, completely butchering the dungeons in this campaign. I will keep the theme and the points of them and what they are exactly the same, but I'm not going to be running a room-to-room dungeon crawl, kicking the doors, see what's there, and moving on type of game. So in the end, they got bottlenecked up here in this little corner. Rats coming in on one side, the skeletons coming on the other. The skeletons weren't able to fit through this little groove, as I was hoping the players would have moved into the room, but they didn't. So there was just one skeleton at a time. One, they killed it. Next one came, they killed it. Next one came, they killed it. Same thing with the rats. They came up, got bottlenecked right in here with this doorway where Roland was. Two of them were able to fit through and attacked. Finally, they killed them. Then two more were able to kind of come through and attack. Finally, Latrix was able to get around the corner, come down this hallway, see where Bork and his rat went, and hatefully defecated him, killed him. And that's pretty much where the session ended. They are trying to regroup. They got everything around, and they headed back to the Cathedral tomorrow to speak with Father Damas. Eustace will be back, so they're going to let him know what's going on and basically try and heal up. So that was the session in a nutshell. I'm going to do a separate video on this whole dungeon rant of mine, I guess you will, as I wasn't very happy with that. But overall, the session itself picked up. They got some clues, and they're pretty sure that Alexia is behind this and raising these bodies. They found out that each of these caskets that were in the room were former witches of the Corvus Coven. 4 of the 5. They did not find Lixaria, which is Alexia's mom. She is not here, so they got to find her yet. But they noticed there's 4 other caskets. There's only 3 in the map, but there's 4 in the room total. Those 4 held the 4 other witches. They seen that there was necromantic ruins around. So altogether, they realized that Alexia has already been here, come and gone. She's used destruction magic to blow off the doors, destroy the grate, and break her way in. She's used necromancy magic to create the skeletons, to revive these 4 Corvus Coven women into whatever they are. The Bork called them Grey Women. The players aren't really sure what's going on there yet, and they know that she already done and left. So they are headed back to kind of regroup and decide what to do from here. So, as I said, that was the session in a nutshell, and, this is a quick, short recap. As I said, because this was a dungeon crawl, it just didn't have the interest. There was really nothing interesting that happened besides this bottlenecked battle at the end that I wasn't too happy with. So, I think I'll definitely make some changes from all the dungeons from here on out. I will run them the way that I'm familiar with and the way that I'm good at, and not do this way, as it just, I'm just not good at running a dungeon this way. And even though I've tried it several times, it doesn't click for me. So, lesson learned, and for anybody out there watching who might be a GM, just always be sure to try different ways. If something doesn't work for you, just tweak it a little bit, change it, try a different way. You'll generally find something that works out well for you. I wanted to give this a run again, just to try it, to see if I could, pull it off quite, but, it just didn't come out the way I wanted. So, really, that was it for the session, This is just a quick recap, I guess, this week, because not much else happened. So you guys have a great week. In 2 weeks, we'll be playing session number 4 of this. I'm going to tweak a few things in the book. There's other dungeons and stuff coming up, so I'm going to rehash them. So hopefully this doesn't happen. And when I do that, afterwards, after the players go through these dungeon stuff, I will recap what I did to change the dungeons to fit my style and kind of do that more GM side of things to kind of give other people who might ever run this or run dungeons in general some different tips and ideas that maybe will help them. So have a great week, guys, and keep rolling those dice.